I'm fixing our Club Broussard-N-Berry sign. I made this, I don't know, 2 years ago or so, and it's these broken off. We've moved it around because of storms and all that kind of thing, and having some connectivity issues. When you plug these things in, they've got to be soldered. Most of them aren't soldered on there; they're just clamped on there with their little cheesy clamps they got. I've got to go through, take all the signs off. I've got to mount them a different way than I did. I have to clean these up, paint these, probably redo the back of this board, or just clean it up. It looks fine, it just probably just needs to be cleaned up. And probably put a new controller in it. It's been off the wall for about 6 months. Not that long. Yeah, about that long, because I had to go through 2 hurricanes, so I've got to go through and disassemble this whole entire thing. And that's what I'm going to do right now. Just take everything off and start from scratch. I don't know if I have to rewire or re-put lights in all of them again. I'll see when I get to that point. The mounting system didn't work. I did, if you watched the last video I did on this one, I actually soldered those with flux in there, and they seem to hold okay sitting on the wall, but they don't hold okay when you want to move it around or do something. You barely touch them, and you know, I mean, this is on there pretty good. Some of them are on there okay. Like, I've got to break them all off. See, I just broke this one off, and I've got to drill holes. I got to do all kinds of crazy stuff. But the solder doesn't hold very well. The lights seem to work fine until they start to oxidize on the connections, and it just doesn't seem to work very well. I just wire nutted these all together in a series circuit. I did all those. The problem is with that, the challenge that I have is that it starts to lose the connection after a while, which isn't very good. So I'm gonna have to go and solder all the ones on the back, and it'll just take me a couple days to get it all done. But I'm gonna do the entire sign, make it brand new again. Here we go. Some water damage here. I'm gonna have to repair that. Come through with my Dremel. I'm gonna sand these parts off, and then re-epoxy the damaged spot over here I just repaired, and then let that dry. I guess while that's drying, I can work on the surface, getting these spots off of here, and it should clean the sign up. Should look new after that, and then I can do my letters. I had no idea that the damage was so extensive. I got all the water damage stuff, most of the water damage stuff off of it. The plywood's separating, so what I'm going to do is come in here with wood glue, glue it in there, then clamp it. Overall, the base isn't too bad. My brackets are a complete disaster. So I've got to do something about the brackets, probably wire brush them, sand them with brush stuff. Everything else seemed to be in pretty good shape. So it looks like it's going to be a 2-step process to clean this board up. Buff it out with this wheel, which is the headlight shiner, you know, restore your headlight system wheel. And then come back with this McGuire's, and it looks like that'll refurbish this board. While that glue dries on those clamps, I'm going to go ahead and start with this corner over here and start cleaning it all up. Okay, it's a little bit more than halfway done. You can see this side has been buffed out, cleaned up, ready to go, and this side is the way that it was when I started over here. So it definitely is restoring it. Looks new. Looks like I just poured the stuff on there. I think I have just enough epoxy for my last project to fix these messed up areas right here. Let it fall on here from my little stir sticky deal here. Now I just have to let this dry. It looks pretty decent, but it does need to dry. So I will not be able to do anything to the sign until tomorrow. Well, it's the next day. Not quite for 24 hours, but it's long enough. I'm going to check the epoxy and see how it's doing, and then we're going to start on electrical on our wires. So this is the spot that I repaired and re-epoxied right here, all the way through here. Looks good. I still have to clean this up. The rest of the sign looks good. Okay, I'm working on this S, and after messing around with this thing for hours yesterday, and before, of course, for the time before I built it, these clip things suck so bad. They just can't handle the weather, and so what I actually have to do is I have to solder each individual wire onto the copper lead from the wire strip. This is probably the only way that I'm going to be able to get these things securely on there without them having any kind of difficulties in the future when they're sitting outside. It's just the oxidation is so bad that you have to wiggle them around, you have to reclamp it, you have to take them off all the time. So this hopefully will solve that issue. And these lights will lay in there, and this strand works fine. My test setup, remote, red, green, green's not working, blue, and white. So that indicates to me that this wire tie is loose. These are actually going to be soldered on there. This is just a rig that I did just for testing each individual light as I go and solder them on, make sure everything works. So once those are soldered, it'll work perfectly. Looks like everything works in this one. So this one is ready to be installed. Got to do all of these letters, and only one's done so far. So got a lot of soldering to do. I decided on these connections here because they're exposed and they may touch the metal here on the sign. There's this stuff that's pretty cool. It's called liquid tape, and it worked great. Used it on a bunch of outdoor stuff, and once it's dried, it's easy to get off if you have to fix something. So I'm just going to slop this on there. I've done all these here. This is what I got to do to every single one of these things. I've got to cut the clip off the end of this wire. Then once it's cut off, I've got to splice it, tin it, then I have to solder it to these little bitty copper probes on there, and then I've got to put this liquid tape on there, and I got to test it, make sure everything works. So I've been doing this for a couple hours. I've got only 2 more letters to do, and I am almost completely done. Did all my connections, all my wires, everything's soldered in there, lights are back in, tested all the lights work on all the letters. Now I've got to come through and drill holes into the sign where I soldered it before where it failed, and I'm going to do that now and drill all my holes. There we go. Holes drilled for the front of the letter. Now I'm putting my screws in from the front this time. Now I'm down to sanding all the little brackets that hold the signs, the letters off the sign base. Here's one that's sanded already, and we've got to sand them down because they're all rusted. There's 21 letters. That means there's 42 brackets that need to be sanded down. I'm going to start sanding. Okay, I did all 42 brackets. Now I just have to paint all these little dudes black. We'll still again. Yep, rust-proofy stuff. It'll work for now. I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm gonna spray all my little parts, let them dry. Got all my letters. Holes are drilled in it. All the lights should work. Brackets done. Now I've got to mount them on the sign. I've already mounted the club on the sign. Remember, if you haven't seen how I made the sign originally, I'll have the link in the description so you can see how to make this originally, and you don't make the same mistakes I made in the original video. That's what I'm fixing now. There were some design flaws in that. So I'm mounting these up onto the sign base now. that's through just like this. Now the reason why I put this slit in this spacer is so the wires won't get crimped up and cut by the metal when you clamp it down. So this goes all the way down just like that. The wires fit right through the hole. Now on the back side of the sign, I've notched out where the wire can come through so it doesn't get pinched by the washer. There we go. Now that wire comes out, I mean, they're a little bit shorter than they were last time, but I think it'll work. I got to come through and solder all these leads up. Well, I finally got all my letters on to my sign. They're all mounted. They're real strong, sturdy. Everything's good to go. And I got my spacers in there. It looks really good. All the leads are coming out the back, and we're ready to light it up now. Here's the back of the sign. Got all my leads coming out, all my wires coming out the entire back of it. Here's the controller, remote control sensor. I'll have the power coming into the controller. Now I got to go through and I have to connect all my power up. I've already got my wiring harness from last time, the original one. I just kind of laid it out so I know where I'm going with it. I've got to go and I've got to tin all these surfaces. Then I've got to get my wire nuts and put the wire nuts on. Last time I just used the wire nuts, and it was a nightmare because the oxidation and the corrosion got on the wires, and you'd have to go through and wiggle them around. It was a crazy mess. This time I completely eliminated that by solder these together. I soldered the wires of the leads coming out of the table, the sign. So I'm good to go with that. Have a temporary power source so I can check each one as I go to make sure that it's working while I go. So when it's completely done, the whole thing should work. So I'm just going to do this one here and just start here and just go out through the whole thing. So, gonna solder. Okay, I've got my high-speed, low-drag flux applicator, and I've got to twist them together, and I've got to do these one at a time because it's just such a mess. I twist the wires together, and then I'm gonna solder them, and I'm hoping that the flux will tin it at the same time. Let's see what happens here, if it'll stick. Yeah, it looks like that works. That method works. Finally completed all the solderings that I had to do. 168 wire connections that I had to solder on this thing. So you're ready to go. We're going to flip it up, make sure all the letters work again, and then we're going to hang it on the back wall. Well, we got it all together. We're fixing to go hang it on. That's off. Change the colors on it. Everything seems to be working. And of course, that's our St. Patty's Day color right there happening this weekend. So we're going to get this thing good to go, and we're going to hang it up. We got everything done. Finally, it is repaired. Remember, if you want to see the way I made this sign originally, I'll have the link in the description to the video on how to make that sign, and then you don't make it the way I made it the first time. You make it the way I made it the second time with the first time. And there we go.